Alvin writes, "You had excellent Q&A on scales which summarized many of your ideas in your book, but you demonstrated it. This has helped tremendously. The demonstration is better than 1,000 words." Can you talk about arpeggios in a similar way? Traditionally, arpeggios are said to be similar to scales, but with larger movements. This is partly true. I find it difficult to apply the same skills. The hardest is the dominant seventh of C major. I know I have to move my hand rather than fixing all the fingers into their playing position prematurely. So he's saying you can't just play the arpeggio as a solid chord slightly broken. You can't fix the hand into the position of the chord. You have to move through melodically. So even though it is a chord, you don't treat it as a broken chord, you treat it as a melody. So he knows that. Still, between my third and fourth finger, I feel very insecure. Because I can't stand up onto my fourth finger, the thumb which follows is clumsy too. Okay, so you've very clearly enunciated the problem because you say, I can't stand up on my fourth finger. So there's the underlying problem. It's not the arpeggio per se. So if you can't stand up in your fourth, then presumably you can't stand up on your fourth in scales either, but perhaps it's masked because they're so close that you can somehow get by. Here, the problem is uncovered. So how do I learn to stand on my fourth? Well, learn to stand in your second first. Because if you're not standing well in your fourth, you're probably not standing well in your second either. How do I do that? Not only do I stand up, but I bring my thumb in to touch the underpad. I'll do it backwards, okay? We'll see. Touch the pad to pad. Now, touch pad to pad to the third finger. Touch pad to pad to the fourth finger. If you bring your thumb to touch the pad to the fourth finger, it has to stand up. Look. See, there's no way it cannot stand up. So the fact that your fourth could not stand up well means that the fourth was not related to the whole in a structural, functional way. You see? Here, when I bring the thumb into the fourth like that, it immediately brings the fourth back into the family. You see? And of course now, see, I'm already in a position, when with my thumb here, I'm already ready to play the next C. Third and fourth, so by bringing the thumb into opposition, it's oriented to oppose. It may not have to touch, and of course this touching is a practice, it's didactic, but it evokes the thumb opposition orientation as a neurological image. So even if I'm not touching my thumb to the underside of my pads, I'm trying to. See? Sorry. Sorry. You see, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this. But it's going so fast that my thumb doesn't have time to actually touch, and instead it gets launched elastically to its next position. And of course, you see at high speeds, there's not an actual joining, is it? Elastic, elastically here. Elastically here. Sorry. So you see there's this elastic motion of the fingers, which actually each elastic motion of the finger, each elastic flexion of the finger launches the arm further along this line. That one isolated flexion elastically launches the arm here. The one isolated flexion elastically launches the arm here. The one isolated flexion elastically launches the arm here. So in a row, they do that. So you see, again, it's the vital internal organization of the fingers to elastically move the keys that allows the arm to follow. So if you just do the fingers and don't allow the arm to follow, it's not going to work. But if you try to do it all with your arm, it's not going to work either. It's this synthesis, this organic synthesis of the division of labor, the actual creation of the sonority and the arm's relationship to joining groups of sonorities. I hope that answers your question about arpeggios. So there's the same... look at that, I did a swivel. Supposed to do a rotation. You see there's actually a little bit of swiveling in the rotation. There's actually a little bit of swivel, I have to admit. But the rotation makes sure that the swiveling is not too much.